Hey everybody, how's it? Aloha, this is Geebz here, your old composer here at the Decomposer Lounge, reacting, pulling back the layers, and dissecting your favorite suggested tracks. Now, I don't know how to pronounce this one correctly. This is the very first time I've had this band on the channel. If it's Agalloch or Agalloch or something. And the track is In the Shadow of Our Pale Companion. A fairly long track, so let's settle in for this. Also, I want to do a very special shout out to Daniel. Daniel, happy birthday in Australia. And you have a very dear friend that cares very much about you, Alita. So Daniel, happy birthday. That's just a quick shout out for you there. And I hope you enjoy this breakdown. All right, guys, let's do this. Agalloch, In the Shadow of Our Pale Companion. All right. You know, this is really kind of emotionally and soulfully seductive. It kind of sounds, you know, before I do a little bit of the breakdown of the layers, it kind of sounds like what they just actually went through was a pattern of a song. And meaning like there's a discernible area where I would say because of the mix and the change of the composition where maybe this is where a verse would have been or a hook. It's first listen to the song, so I don't know what's coming up. It could be that. But what I really enjoy is the melody that the guitar is playing. It's an acoustic guitar, as we know. It's all in harmony. You know, da, 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 da. I even remember it. It's really nice. It's very clean. To get into the quick breakdown of it, the picking pattern at the very beginning is what sets this tone of it being kind of a conflict of dark but hopeful. You know, definitely the way they brought up each one of these layers, definitely they want you to get set on a path for quite a journey, and it must be because this is 14, almost 15 minutes long. And then the acoustic guitars come in with the strumming. What I found unique about that, and also with the drums and stuff, it sounds like, and this is why I enjoy recordings like this, it sounds like the guitars are slightly rushing, just slightly in the rhythmic pattern against the drums. You could feel like there's this, and whether it's intentional or not, it adds to the uneasiness and of that kind of vibe that's already been set. But the chords that they're using is what gives this kind of like this pseudo-hopeful, there could be light at the end of the tunnel kind of vibe and stuff like that. And then, like I said earlier, as this bloomed, then we got into the heavier part of the composition where the drums open up, the hi-hat opens up just a little bit. You ever notice that? I'm sure most of you have, because most of you are you know, listen to a lot of music and stuff, is when a drummer has the hi-hat closed, it has a definitive and then they open it up just a little bit and they hit it and it gives it kind of a nice little ring out. That probably was so Bobo elementary I shouldn't have mentioned it, but it becomes important when arrangements change, and you know, you want some of that long kind of high-end, you know, cymbal sound without actually hitting the cymbal and stuff, and that makes a difference. When the crunch came in, I really loved when it was all in there. All right, let's continue on. I might go maybe 4 or 5 minutes before I stop again, because I want to really rinse in this and be able to, you know, pull out some good stuff here. So here we go. Okay, I didn't want to get it too far on this. Very unique approach in the vocal part of the recording. When the sustained note of the vocal came in, that was holding this the what I would consider the pedal note or the drone note of those chord changes, which means, you know, for the pure listener, it's a note that will stay consistent within the scale of the chords that are being played, but there's usually one note that can actually thread that needle of chords. And it's actually kind of easy to find when your ear gets attuned to it, but I don't really talk much about it because I already do enough to demystify your favorite tracks. I don't want to blow it where, you know, you go, oh man, all I can hear is that one thing now. Now I can't even, you know, so. But I love the approach on the engineering of it. Now, obviously, I didn't understand the words. I don't have the lyrics here, and you know that I don't do lyrical breakdowns or anything like that on the first listen. I love the hard split of when the voice got very dark and very, you know, here. But where I was able to make out at least a good percentage of what was being said is because on this side was a very clean, very dark storytelling voice, and I really dug that. But why they went hard left and right was unique for me because it seemed to have been a little bit of a battle between that and the guitars that were hard left and right for me. And speaking of the acoustic guitars, once again, that, you know, the strumming aspect of an acoustic guitar is so important, or the rhythmical arrangement, you know, so it's something of that nature. Of course, it's a guitar. It's holding a chord. There is a value with that. It's setting a tone, right? But the strumming with the pick is also a very important part of the recording process when you have to take in consideration your arrangement, and because it adds to the percussive nature of the arrangement. And that's why early on it felt like, is there a little pushiness going on there? And what I mean by that pushy is it rushing the beat a little bit, or is it hanging back, you know? And so that kind of adds a little bit to like this tension. But you want to know what the Blade Runner is on this is, once again, and I always glam on the bass, and I'm not a bass player. I mean, I can play bass enough to do the work that I do, you know, for my media compositions, but I've always known the importance of the bass, yet very much unsung in a lot of things. Listen to how the bass really keeps it all together. For me, it does. And it has its own arrangement, and it's living in its own pocket. There's times where it's doubling the guitar, the acoustic guitar pattern and stuff, but it's really moving around a lot, and it's really adding a really unique element to the composition. So we still have 8 minutes or so left. So as we go through the track and continue forward, close your eyes and let the bass, you know, rent a little space in your head on this journey. And also, finally, this last passage with that melody that the guitar is playing, some people would say that's a solo. To me, it sounds like more of a melodic composition. Love the long notes. Love the wash of everything that's happening here. It really allows you to sink in and just kind of chill and just get involved in it. And it also allows you to like spark off your own theater of the mind when you drift off. And it allows you to, you know, express your experiences in here while you're tripping on this, you know, song, regardless of tripping on whatever else. I don't know why I pointed to my coffee. It ain't a trip. That's more like a fire, fire. Okay. Let's continue on. I'll move back a little bit. you know, that particular passage, what I really loved about it is the tone that was set by that. You know, that whole thing, that whole pattern went through that whole passage. And there were chord changes that went around that. And what that has to do with is that, you know, a lot of notes are shared in a scale. And within the scale, there's chords that you can play, and they are chord changes, but still maintain notes. That's where you get that effect where that da 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 can stay all the way across while these chord changes happen. There's a lot of chords that are like on a guitar. There's, you know, open notes. That means, you know, when you strum a guitar, you don't make a chord with your left hand. That's actually, those are what we call open notes. And there are chords that you can play that use a high percentage of those open notes, where in turn, when used, gives you kind of a very unique kind of voicing. So you can move shapes, guitar chord shapes sometimes, and move them around, but leave certain open notes ringing. And even though these are chord changes, those two notes play a very unique addition to it and expand the voicing of chords. I went way off on that. Let me go back to it. I love the really slow buildup of this, which it looks like this is what these guys are about in this journey, is they let you rinse just long enough before they make the next change and the next change. And then when the vocals came in, I had an opportunity to really get into, you know, vocal performance compared to what I was explaining earlier with that dark, heavy, and that storytelling kind of vibe. Long, very ambient melody there, and it just keeps building, it just keeps building, and once again it allows you to kind of soak in there, and then it gives you, then you get a little bit of this experimental psychedelic kind of vibe. There are I haven't heard any keyboards or anything, but there's this really fast vibrato, whether it's a chord strum or maybe it sounds like it could be like a clavinet sound or something, of a keyboard that's being held down, but you hear it kind of swim back and forth. Now I don't know if that's actually done in the engineering, if they panned it or if it was triggered to do its own movement. But also, I kind of skipped around a little bit. As that da 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 started building and stuff, there was a growl in the background, way back there, and I was going, is that a double bass? Which is that an upright bass that's holding this very low bow pulling that gives it this really dark resonance? I couldn't tell, but it was killer. I really loved it. You know, I definitely don't want to say I know that's what it was, but it sounded like it. It sounded like the bow against, you know, a string on the double bass, way hanging back. If you go back to the beginning of that pattern, you know, and once again, look how funny that is. I'm always going back to the bottom end, you know, of a track. But go back to that when that pattern starts, and close your eyes and see if you can't pick that up. Very, very low growl in the back. You know, it sounded like a double bass, but then me as an old composer, my brain goes to certain places that I'm just used to as a default setting. All right, let's continue on. I have a funny feeling this is probably part of a series of songs. It only speaks that way to me because it's such a journey. There are so many elements in this that was really super cool. I felt like they pulled from some of the more original long form music performances, some Pink Floyd kind of elements with that. If you listen to some Pink Floyd from the Dark Side of the Moon album and stuff like that, they were, to me, in my journey, in my little bubble of knowledge of music way back in the late 60s, early 70s and stuff, that did these really long pieces, and which I was always blown away with. And that's because they spoke into it. They spoke of a bigger story. Musically, there's these chunks that these folks here just finished with this song, where the drummer, they changed the rhythm, they changed the energy of the arrangements and stuff. Sounds like they stayed in the same key through the whole track. It feels like they did. But the second run that I just heard, and the drummer starts off the snare with the gallop, and it runs back up, and he speeds up and then locks in. It's just this really long delivery of, I don't know if I want to call it shoegaze style, just powerful wash of composition. And what I mean by that is they're just long notes that are being held out and everything. And everything is really, this track seems to be defined by really keeping you pulled in. And the call to action sonically are these notes that hang out. They just hang out. They never leave you. It's almost like, in a very weird way, since I don't know exactly what the song was about, there's like this, these long notes are like arms that reach out and just kind of bring you in and pull you into a comfortable circle. Now, I don't know if that's where this is in the album, what this represents, or what the lyrics really are, because I'm listening to it. But once again, when the vocals come back in, I'm pulled back into it. Very long, held out notes in the background, a lot of reverb on it. So the concept in my mind is, when you wash a lot of stuff out with reverb, you want to give people that universal, ambient, ethereal kind of vibe that you could be in a huge cathedral or a hall, or polar opposite, that's enclosed per se, that some of the use of reverbs and stuff might give you the effect of that you're drifting through space. And that's what this track gave me. That whole energy was just an adrift, but yet there was an emotional tug of war that was going on there. And then you may have saw me kind of go when the guitar player did a little bit of solo work, and he did that sweep. Like, whoa, what are they gonna light up something here? But I'm actually glad they didn't. I thought that was probably the most aggressive piece of half a bar of musicianship there. Because the rest of it was just subtle and powerful. And that's the one thing about, on this channel, we've heard a lot of music that's very aggressive, very fast, incredibly technical and stuff. But yet, some of the long tail power, even through some of the bands that I've heard, other songs that are not suggested, I'm thinking, yeah, wow, this is going to be, and then I hit a track where I go, whoa, just everything is pulled back. The chords are mellow. It's a big glide and stuff. I think there just has to be a little bit of that on every album. It's like coming down off of something, whatever that might be to you. Anyhow, I wanted you to think, this was a long video. I want to thank you for hanging out, but this was a special video. Once again, like I said at the very beginning, Daniel, happy birthday. I hope all of your endeavors go the way and as hard as I hear that you're working on them, become fruitful. And the best thing about it, your work helping other people is very important. So Daniel, happy birthday. Alita, thank you very much for reaching out. Everybody else, you know the jig. If you're still here, you want to buy me a cup of coffee, you know where the link is. It's down below. The link for this Spotify for this band is down below. Link to check out the headsets if you want, down below. And if you want to check out my Patreon, that link will be down below. All right, guys, take care. Have a killer weekend. Aloha.